Hey, I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, we look at the criteria and scientific data that goes into selecting the postseason awards.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch an MVP by the toe. All right, and now for something with no criteria at all, the SRBB headline.
Next month, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will induct Jay-Z, the Go-Go's, Tina Turner, Carole King, and the Foo Fighters, but Todd Rundgren, who will also be inducted, will not be there. Rundgren has said, "True Halls of Fame, to me, are for retirees and dead people, because your legacy has been established." He says he's too busy working to worry about his legacy, and he plans to continue to working until whenever. Rundgren will be performing in Cincinnati the same night as the induction ceremony.
When last we shared the saga of Mike Richards, okay, really it's the saga of Jeopardy, but he had stepped down as the new host, the self-appointed new host of Jeopardy. Then Richards decided we should just go back to that guest host format thing. Well, the powers that be above him said, "I don't think so, Mike. You're fired. You're no longer the executive producer of Jeopardy. You're no longer the executive producer of Wheel of Fortune. So you're out of here." And they said, we need some stability with the hosting, not this constant wheel somebody does a week, every different week. So Mayim Bialik, who was going to do some anyway and has recorded episodes that will start airing this week until November 5th. She'll be solid through that, and then after that she and Ken Jennings will be splitting the duties from there on out. No telling how they're going to do that, if it's going to be like a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there, month on, month off, not sure. But that is how they hope to get Jeopardy settled. Both Bialik and Jennings have said it's time to cut the drama in this saga of Jeopardy.
A bit late, but an icon of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Helen Fox, died on July 25th at the age of 101. She was the winningest pitcher in the history of the AGPBL, and she holds the record for career strikeouts. She played for the Kenosha Comets from 1943 to 1947 and the Rockford Peaches from 1947 to 1952.
All right, as the nation is glued to their TVs and papers and every source of news they can get to, the story of missing aspiring influencer and travel blogger Gabby Petito grows. Her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, arrived home in Florida on September 1st, and her blog post stopped in late August. Her mother heard from her the last time at the end of August, and then received messages the family says didn't sound like her, and one of them even said, well, there's no cell service in Yosemite. However, they were going to the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. Yosemite is a little ways off in California. Also, she had sent a message referring to her grandfather by his name, his first name, which she never did. So they became suspicious at that point. Laundrie gets home all alone, him in the van that they had been out traveling in. They had been in Utah, and like I said, in the region, they were going to Wyoming. There was a 911 domestic violence call, which prompted a stop by Utah authorities in Moab, and they found that it didn't look like there had been any physical altercation, and just that maybe Gabby was suffering from some mental issues. Body was found matching Gabby's description in Wyoming. The pathologists are working to determine if it is indeed her. In the meantime, Brian Laundrie has disappeared. He showed up home when the authorities came to talk to him after he came home alone. His lawyer was there to talk to the authorities, and then shortly thereafter, Brian disappeared off to a nature reserve, is what he's told his family. They're even trying to report him as a missing person now, but per the FBI, this is now an official criminal investigation. And just recently they went to the laundry house because he lived at home with Gabby at his parents'. Who knows? Now remember, this is as of recording, so a lot of things could happen between now and when you hear it. So we're going to see a few different stories as we find out, on our way to finding out what happened to Gabby Petito.
You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
Every year about this time, through the end of the season and the postseason, into November, when they finally announce the winners of the postseason's awards, there is a conversation about who's actually deserving and what is the criteria. The other day, I think I told you this, the other day I woke up in the morning and literally the first thought in my head was, before going to the bathroom or getting a drink of water, doing any of that stuff, was, what criteria is you? I don't see, a lot of times it's like, well, the way we figured this out is we did this and this and this. They had to meet these things to be eligible. And of course, a lot of people start saying, well, but this all sounds like it all sounds political to me. Why are they only looking at these guys? These guys are more popular, or they're from a winning team, but nobody ever comes out and says, no, look, this is what we do. And we know that the people who vote for these postseason awards have biases. So what do you think? What goes into it? Let's have this conversation from where we stand with it and what we think should go into it.
For MVP, I think you're looking at the whole season. So you could have guys that have a blockbuster first half, and then second half, okay, and not like they fell off, but it wasn't like their first part of the season. And when I look at, and so those numbers from the first half carry them into these conversations, or vice versa. They could not, maybe they started off slow, but they had a great second half. So I think for the MVP, it's the whole body of work over the season. But in the case of Ohtani, you have he's a different breed because he is a two-way player. And so you're not only looking at what he's done at the plate, which is a lot, but you're also looking at what he's done on the mound. And an MVP, it's for the American League or the National League. So it's for the whole league. So what player had the most impact on the league? And I think that's what you have to look at. Not at who, and we talked about this last week, but not what team they play on, but their impact on the game for the season. And I think that it's Shohei Ohtani. But
I agree as far as the MVP goes, that how do you not consider him at the top? I know that there's some voices out there who are thinking that, once again, a player of color or Latino descent like Vladdy Jr. is going to get overlooked because they want to give it to somebody else. And I see how is it that he's not the most valuable player for the league? The whole world watches Ohtani. I am a fan of Vladdy Jr., and of course I was a big fan of his dad, and he's having an incredible year. But did he help his team on both sides of the ball? Did he bring fans? When you see any game where Otani's at in any stadium, all the stadiums that he's been to, somebody in the stadium has Otani gear on. Probably multiple people have Otani gear on. And then people get upset. We talked about it in Minnesota where they intentionally walked him. They booed their own team because they were mad that they intentionally walked Otani. They want to see him hit. He's bringing people into the ballpark. People are watching. You mentioned, knowing somebody who has Japanese channels just so they can watch Otani. And Otani's on TV over there in Japan. So it's not like he's just, that one little area or the small baseball world.
So I guess he'd be MVP for the AL, but he's actually for this season the MVP of the MLB. Really, you think about it, when he's the face of the MLB, he has people, like you said, all over the world, but other sports figures, basketball, football, hockey, that are tweeting about Shohei Ohtani. They are they're taking time to notice what he's doing on the field. We have a cousin who, I don't know how much he's interested in baseball. I think he's more of a football fan.
Yeah.
But when you went to the game, the comment, you had some pictures up and he made a comment, Ohtani. I mean, right there, that just shows across the sports leagues that he's it. So I want to mention the quote from Manny Ramirez, who played for the Red Sox, was never MVP. And he recently was interviewed.
And the Dodgers, by the way.
And the Dodgers, yes. He was recently interviewed, and he said, what they want to do to that boy, referring to Vladdy Jr., is an injustice, the same way they did to me in the major leagues. I'm supposed to have 4 MVPs, if you check my numbers. They are all to be MVP, argued Manny, who in 19 seasons in the best baseball in the world could never be named most valuable player. In short, he fears that the MVP will be taken from Vladdy Guerrero Jr. because in his opinion, he's the one who deserves it the most above Ohtani.
Key term there was opinion.
It is his opinion, but listen to these names, and they all have something in common. Eddie Murray, Kirby Puckett, Ozzie Smith, Tim Raines, Edgar Martinez, Roberto Alomar, Craig Biggio, Mike Piazza, and Tony Gwynn.
They're all Hall of Famers?
None of them were ever MVPs. None of them.
Yeah, you would have thought that at least one of them somewhere or a couple of them would have been there.
Yeah.
And they're all Hall of Famers.
They're all Hall of Famers. But Ramirez also said when you give the power to the reporters, who are the voters, so that they can elect the MVP, they can do what they want. And that's an injustice because they never played baseball.
Okay. Well, that's probably not, they didn't play it at their level necessarily. Everybody's probably played baseball. All those guys they didn't just go down to the sandlot to report on what was happening.
Yeah, they were the kid
played.
Reporter while their friends were
playing. Yeah, they had their little notebook. It was like the great Hambino. Smalls hits one out of here in his first at bat.
In his neighborhood newsletter that he
the neighborhood sent. Exactly. But, so I get what they're saying. And that's why I said the biases on that part of it are hard to overcome. And it's a good argument to have. Should they do that? But here's what Manny's missing. If the players picked the most valuable player, they're going to pick Ohtani. Because at the All-Star game, almost every single one of them was in awe of what Ohtani did. That guy's out of this world. That's what you kept hearing. There's something about him. And that's from the players there. Nobody's taking anything away from Vladdy Jr. They're just saying nobody plays this game like Ohtani does. He is in a different realm.
And if you look at the All-Star game, Vladdy Jr. was the MVP of the All-Star game.
Right?
So it wasn't Ohtani, but it was Vladdy Jr.
Right. He's
think-
up there. I mean, you could co-MVP him if you
He's-
wanted to, but just from the standpoint of the most valuable player to me is somebody who, like Vladdy, who has carried his team on his shoulders a few times, a team that's been up and down. Ohtani, yes, plays for a team that is below average.
The other aspect to this too, and I don't watch enough Blue Jays games all the time. If they're on and I, like national feed, I'll watch them, but I don't know how many walks Vladdy Jr. gets. Ohtani, especially now, he's one of the most feared hitters, and he gets walked all the time. So obviously his numbers are not good, or he gets thrown out. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But so his numbers, especially in the second half, he's not getting those opportunities to hit.
Well, no, we talked about that. That's why Joe Madden moved him to the
Right.
leadoff spot, so they would actually have to pitch to him at least once in the game.
So in a Sports Illustrated article by Tom Verducci, he makes the case of Shohei Ohtani versus Vladdy Guerrero. And I just wanted to share some of his reasons of why Ohtani would lead Guerrero. So this is
Okay,
Tom.
1 second. Before you
Yeah.
start, let me give you this stat because you asked about the walks.
Yes.
Vladdy's actually been walked 82 times to Ohtani's 77.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right.
Now, I'm assuming that number, I'd have to look it up, but includes all intentional base on balls.
Oh, yeah.
All right, back to your regular scheduled thought.
All right, so this is Tom Verducci in his article in Sports Illustrated. He is Shohei Ohtani. He has 44 homers. He also throws the hardest in baseball. On Sunday, in the game on Sunday, he had 19 outs on his split finger baseball or fastball, and the most in a game with that pitch in 11 years. The A's went 0 for 19 against his splitter. And then over his 22 starts, he's held batters to a 208 batting average while losing just twice. So he leads the league in intentional walks. And when tracking began of intentional walks in 1955, only 3 hitters have hit 44 home runs, stolen 23 bases, and led the league in intentional walks. Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., and Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani leads Guerrero in WAR, and Guerrero is not the outright leader in WAR on his own club. He's tied with Marcus Semien, who also has been, his name's been showing up as maybe a dark horse in the MVP, and then with Robbie Ray. And the last player to win the MVP who did not lead his team in WAR was Miguel Cabrera. Until Ohtani, no player in baseball history hit more than 9 home runs in a season, while also starting more than 20 games on the mound. No player had ever been selected to the All-Star game as a pitcher and a hitter until Ohtani. He was the leadoff hitter and the winning pitcher for the AL. He is the 8th pitcher to strike out 10.6 batters per 9 and win 80% of his decisions. He leads the majors in slugging by left-handed batters against left-handed pitchers, and he slugs higher against lefties than does Guerrero, who is a righty. The list goes on and on. Obviously, we know who Tom Verducci is voting for. I mean, that was the whole article. But he's not sliding Vladdy Jr. because we all know he's a great player. He's fun to watch. He's 22 years old. I think in his future, he will have an MVP. But at this moment, Shohei Ohtani is the American League MVP.
Yeah, I don't think there's a doubt about it. He had a breakout season. Vladdy had that too, but I think, not to say that you expected it. They're just, from what we saw in the past, we did kind of expect he was going to be this kind of a player. And that doesn't mean he's not deserving. It's just how many times all of those players that you mentioned that are Hall of Famers all probably had their best season and were overshadowed by somebody who didn't make it in the Hall of Fame or is in the Hall of Fame, but just had that much better of a season.
Well, Mike Piazza, he was, I think he was second in the voting to Larry Walker, who for MVP, and I think at 1997, and now Larry Walker is in the Hall, but so is
but Mike.
So is
Mike
he.
got there earlier and more convincing.
Right, he wasn't on his last vote to get there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's things that you goes into, with the voting, and sometimes it can be a writer's bias. And I went and I've tried to talk to this guy, tried to interview him, and every time I see him, he's just rude. It could be something like that. And I think that's just across the board. I think that's just normal for most people. Instead of looking at just the stats, those biases that you think, oh, I don't have that bias, but you do, comes into play.
That personal bias. So what should be the criteria, do you think? I mean, obviously in Ohtani's sense, it's different because he's doing more. What would his WAR be if he was only hitting?
Yeah.
Things like that. Those questions are things we should probably ask. If he was only doing one thing, would he be the MVP?
No. I mean, because pitching, he's had good starts. He's had those moments, but there have been other times where he went 3 innings and, he wasn't pitching well that day. That kind of goes with everybody.
Right. And
but
there's times too when he strikes out, in a high leverage situation.
Yeah. I think for the MVP, the criteria is you need to look at the entire season. Because I think especially when we get into the, August and especially in September, you get, for whatever reason, there's a lot of players that get really hot and they're helping their team because they're in a position to go into the postseason. So I don't think you can look at just 2 months. I think you need to look at the whole season, the whole body of work for the 162.
What kind of stats should we be looking at?
Well, MVP, you're looking at, it's most valuable player. So you're not only looking at offense, but you're also looking at defense too. How many stolen bases does Vladdy Jr. have? How many stolen bases does Ohtani have? I think he has like 20 plus, 23, I think is what I said. So you look at their offensively. I think sometimes we get into that where we only look at offense, what they're doing at the plate. And obviously that's important, but what are they doing in their position? Do they have errors? Do they have,
right, what's their fielding percentage?
Yeah, so you're looking at the total player because it's the most valuable player. So it's not just offense, it's also defense. But we can tell when you show, and I'm not saying that Vladdy Jr. is not, defensively is not a good player. He is. But what stats do you see in his case? It's always going to be, and really for anyone, it's always going to be offense, the offense stats. So I think that we should look at offensively and defensively And if that player was not in the game for their team, what was the war? What's the for them? Did they?
Yeah, what's their win
and-
probability? Well, and there's a stat
Yeah.
for that, the win probability added stat that, any of these stats are not perfect, but it can say with him in the game, they're this more likely to win. Or just like war, with him in his position, he's 8 games better than his AAA replacement would be. So what is he worth in wins? How does he affect that? That's obviously, one of them. And I agree. When you watch him play, if you're talking about an outfielder, are they hitting? Are their throws on? Are they making good baseball plays on the field? Not, throwing things away, committing a lot of errors. Are they there backing up? Are they doing the intangibles that aren't quantified by a statistic? But if you had to pick 3 top statistics for the MVP, along with whatever your personal opinion, what would be the 3 top things you would pick? Would home runs be one of them?
I think you have to go with home runs, as that might be a tiebreaker. That for somebody, but I think a home run.
Yeah.
I think they're offensively. I mean, their batting average would be tops. One thing that you would look at, and then I just think really, how did they help their team win? So looking at those stats that we don't always see, that you're not going to see in the box score. You're going to have to seek those out by going to Baseball Reference or Fangraphs or, those type of websites. Because if they're the most valuable player, then that's the most valuable player for their team. And then, of course, overall for the American League. How did they help their team get to what they are now? For the Angels, of course, people would come back and say, well, the Angels are not going to be in postseason, and he's, a Harold Reynolds argument. But I'm talking about individually, when that player is in position, how does he help his team?
Well, and without him, are the Angels in last place?
Possibly.
And I guess that opens
Well-
up a whole nother conversation about if you play a certain way with the player, and then because the Angels are missing other people who are MVP caliber players, but yet they set at 500, but they're always there. Are they really having that kind of an impact? The MVP award is a singular award. It's not the most valuable player that took their team to the World Series. Then we would have the whole thing. It wouldn't be just a regular season award. And the other thing I think too is are they a most valuable player because of how they impact the league as a whole, which we know he does. And Vladdy does in a way as well, but in a different way, at a lower level compared to the worldwide, and even within his own sport. There are people in awe of him.
No, yeah, I think you would take that into consideration. I think that's a big one too, because when you're trying to, and for MLB, when you're promoting baseball, you want those guys that are, Vladdy falls into that younger. He's exciting to watch, and like I said, he's 22 years old. We know he's gonna have an impact on the game, and Ohtani is having that impact right now. So I think that is something that also has to come into play. It's one of those hard ones because there's so many different things when you look at, and everybody has their own opinion on MVP, on what should just be offense, and nobody really cares about defense. And, there's lots of different things that go into it. But I think overall, if you look at Vladdy and you look at Shohei, it's got to be Shohei.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Okay, great week for the Dodgers in their pursuit of the Giants. Just not great enough. They swept the Diamondbacks like they were supposed to. And they really needed to sweep the Reds. But they do take 2 of 3. The problem is the Giants played well all week as well. Now, they did gain a little ground, but you would have hoped that by sweeping both teams, you would have gained more ground. I think they would have been tied if they had been able to sweep the Reds. Good series in both. To me, one of the biggest questions in Dodger universe that came up this last week was actually there was 2. One, should number 34 be retired? And 2, why aren't all the starters or anybody that bats for the Dodgers using Albert Pujols' bat?
Well, I will say that Max Scherzer, who has not had a hit, he didn't use Albert Pujols' bat, but he has used his batting gloves. So I'm thinking if he uses his batting gloves and his bat, he will get a hit.
A hit is on his way. And just to touch real quick, statistically speaking and attitudinally, Max Scherzer is, sorry, Walker, but Max Scherzer is the Cy Young Award winner. I don't see anybody who's pitching better than him anywhere in baseball.
Well, let's look at the Arizona series just really quickly, because as you said, it's a series that the Dodgers should win every game, and they did. And one big part of this series is Clayton Kershaw. He's back. Much needed in the rotation. In the first game, Dodgers win that game 5-1. Kershaw goes 4 1/3 innings, gives up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts, and looked really good. And coming back, and like I said, a much needed re-addition, I guess, to the rotation there. So that was really good. I know a lot of people were excited to be able to say it's Kershaw Day. And then in the second game, Dodgers win 8-4. Tony Gonsolin is on the mound. Another really good, another good outing for him, a solid. And he went 5 innings, gives up 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. So it's good to see him. I'm not sure what his role will be in the rotation, if he will have a starting role, or how that will work for him, or if he'll be a longer relief. So we'll see. And then Julio Urias gets his 18th win of the season. Dodgers win that game 5-3. I do have to mention Gavin Lux has been playing left field. We mentioned that last week, but he continues to play left field. And yeah, he's not always great. He's getting a little better out there. Maybe Cody Bellinger won't think so, but he is getting a little better. And he actually, in the Arizona series, he was 1 for 3 in the first game and 2 for 4 in the third game with 2 RBIs. In the second game, he was 0 for 4. But, he's getting those hits and getting guys on. And he looks like a totally different player to me. I've always been on his case about he seems lackadaisical. And I always thought he had a big head. Like, I am the number 1 prospect, and here I am. He gets sent down to Oklahoma City. It wasn't for a long time.
Yeah, it was under different circumstances this time, though. He didn't go down because, I mean, they traded for somebody that basically replaced him.
Yes.
And he saw how the world can turn that quickly, and that you're not the end all be all. We don't need you. We have resources for somebody else. It's not that we don't want you, but we don't need you.
And he had to get into the mentality of the Dodgers, which is you play where we put you. And that's where you're going to be. I mean, obviously, there's guys that Corey Seager is a shortstop. Trey Turner, he is a shortstop, but he's playing second base. You know, it's the platoon mentality that the Dodgers have. And Gavin Lux didn't have, I don't think he had that mentality. And so being sent down was good for him. And we could see it in this series. Now, during this series against Arizona, they had a couple of bobblehead nights. They had a Tommy Lasorda bobblehead night, but then they also had Fernando Valenzuela bobblehead celebrating 40 years of Fernando Mania. And so the big question that a lot of people have is, should the Dodgers retire number 34?
I think they should. But, you know, typically what they do, and, you know, it goes from team to team, but I think the Angels do the same thing. They retire the numbers of the players who go to the Hall of Fame. You know, they may put them in their own Hall of Fame. The Dodgers have started their area. We got, you know, Steve Garvey, Fernando, Don Newcomb. These are all guys who didn't make it into Baseball Hall of Fame, but the Dodgers are honoring that way, but they're not retiring any numbers. But if you're going to have the 40th anniversary, they're not even like making a big deal of the 40th anniversary of the championship in 1981. They're talking about, and obviously I don't think that championship happens without Fernando, because it's the excitement and that came around. You've got to give him, it's like we were talking about with the MVP. You have to recognize what somebody brings that's outside of the field, the stats on the field, the play. He needs to be recognized by that, and number 34 needs to be retired, period. Come on, Stan Kasten. Magic, you know what it's all about. Make it happen.
Fernando Valenzuela, in his first 8 starts, had 8 wins, 7 complete games, 5 shutouts, and 4 earned runs surrendered in his first 72 innings.
I don't even think any player this year has a complete game for the Dodgers.
No, they don't. In streaks of over 80 innings, only Bob Gibson's 3 earned runs in 103 innings in 1968 was better than Fernando's 4 earned runs in 89 and 2/3 innings. And he became the first player to win Rookie of the Year and Cy Young awards in the same season. He had won 2 Silver Slugger awards, and of course the Rookie of the Year. He won a Gold Glove award, the Cy Young award. But the bigger impact, I mean, Fernando Valenzuela, I remember watching him and the excitement of Fernando Valenzuela. We saw him at the tail end of his career against when we went and saw the Orioles play the Rangers. But it was still exciting for me to see him. But the 11 of his 12 starts at Dodger Stadium in 1981 were sellouts. On the road, during his first 2 years, Valenzuela's starts drew more than 13,000 more people than other Dodger starters. And prior to 1981, the Dodgers had only broken the 3 million mark in attendance twice. From 1982 to 1986, home attendance was over 3 million every season. and they broke the major league attendance record in 1982, and with 3.6 million fans, and then slipped to 3.5 in 1983. Also, looking at it even beyond that, beyond Dodger Stadium, in Mexico, there were 3 stations that carried Dodger games. When Fernando Valenzuela started pitching, there were 17 radio stations that carried Dodger games. And so his, there's comparison that you could say to Shohei Ohtani is he's with, Japan, and he's international. The same thing with Fernando Valenzuela. He's made such a huge impact. And a lot of the players, I would venture to say that on the Dodgers, off the top of my head, Julio Urias, Victor Gonzalez, who's in Oklahoma City right now, that impact that Fernando Valenzuela had was huge for them growing up playing baseball in Mexico. So
well, I think in Julio's case, it was, because he's so much younger, that that ignited it, and the people that brought him into the world, who were kids when that happened, or younger, are put that with him, and he saw that. Fernando Valenzuela finished 5th in the MVP voting that year. Mike Schmidt would take the 81 MVP, but he did get 1 first place vote. But he was number 5, and all he did was pitch. But his value, not only as a pitcher, because he was incredible, the numbers and that, but what he did to elevate the Dodgers and the game, once again, probably should have been MVP just off of that, and definitely deserves a retired number.
All right. So then the Dodgers, after good games against Arizona, fly to Cincinnati, and Walker Buehler's on the mound. Not, if you were looking at a game, and he's had some games like this where you struggled, it would be this game. They end up losing 3-1. Walker Buehler's on the mound. He goes 6 innings, gives up 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, only 5 strikeouts. So not really what you want to put in your portfolio if you were making one for Cy Young. I don't think they do that. Like, here's my portfolio.
Well, not like they do like for the Heisman or for things like that, where it's a whole package they're sending out for somebody. Yeah, no, this is just because there's just too much. You couldn't do that. I do recall you texting me around this game going, I don't think Walker gets what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
does he not understand?
Yeah, I did feel that way. But one of the things that the Dodgers had was against them, I guess you could say, was Luis Castillo was on the mound for the Reds, and he pitched 6 1/3 innings, and he struck out 10. So he was having himself a game, and the Dodgers, they had Mookie Betts was 1 for 4, Trey Turner was 1 for 4, Corey Seager 2 for 3. Matt Beatty had the only RBI in that game. He was 2 for 4. So it was a combination of Walker Buehler, like I said, not getting it, and the offense obviously not getting it either, because they come into Cincinnati and everybody's scoreboard watching, because I know when I was watching the game in the corner, it was San Francisco and Atlanta start at this time, and then they would give you updates of their scores. So in the first game, they lose. They come back. Max Scherzer's on the mound the next day. He goes 7 innings, gives up 2 hits, no runs, strikes out 7. They win that game 5-1. And Gavin Lux, 1 for 3 in that game. In the first game, Gavin Lux didn't play because he was in the lineup, but got scratched because he had been hit by a pitching machine. So he had what they call a contusion on his forearm. He had a bruise. So they We're like, all right, we need to.
He had
we
an
need.
ego bruise and couldn't play.
Well, it could be that. And then Cody Bellinger was out of the lineup because in an earlier game, I think it was one of the games with Arizona, Cody's in center, Gavin Lux is in left. Another one of those collisions where I got it, you got it, you described with Chris Taylor last week, but this time Cody Bellinger has non-disclosed non-displaced rib fracture. So it's soreness, but that's going to affect him throwing. So
Right.
he's been out of the lineup, but does anyone really miss him?
I didn't notice he was gone.
Exactly. So, and then, like I said, Max Scherzer again on the mound, being Max. And then the next game, the last game of the series, Kershaw Day. Kershaw goes 5 innings, gives up 3 hits, 1 run, had 8 strikeouts. The Dodgers came out really early in this game. Corey Seager had a home run. Will Smith had a home run. Gavin Lux had a home run. And
I think
they
the first 6 runs were all off of home runs, right?
And Wade Miley was on the mound. And so going into the game, you think, oh, this might be a tough one. But he just wasn't having a good day. He didn't have the Hulk tattoo on, I guess.
Thankfully.
Yeah, I'm happy he did not have that. So the Dodgers go on to win that 8-5. But one of the things about this series, good for the Dodgers, they did have the Giants beat the Braves Friday and Saturday, but then they lost on Sunday. And so that helped the Dodgers be like 1 game now behind San Francisco. But one of the cool things that happened in this game is in the Cincinnati outfielder, TJ Friedel, had his first career hit. He hit a pinch hit home run. And Mookie Betts remembered that this was his first hit as a major leaguer. The guy who caught it, his name is Michael Diddle. He catches the ball. He's excited. His friends are looking back, look, hey, cool. Mookie is like, hey, can you give me that ball? And without hesitation, he's like, it's his first hit. Without hesitation, this fan throws it back, which that's really cool because there's a lot of people that are like, well, I'll give it to you, but I want this, and this.
What are you going to give me?
And he didn't do that. But Mookie Betts told him, I got you. So he was like, okay. He didn't know what that meant, like what that was going to entail. Mookie Betts comes out in the bottom of the 7th and gives him a signed bat. At
right.
First
now, what would you rather have? TJ Friedel's first hit, ball, just a ball, doesn't say anything, or a signed bat by an MVP?
Yeah. And this guy who, when you think about, I always try to always see the good in people. And this guy exudes that because he gets the bat, thanks Mookie Betts, is walking back to his seat. There's a kid with his dad. He's got a Mookie Betts jersey on. The dad asked him, can my son take a picture with that bat? Sure, go ahead. And I think that's really cool. That just shows you the type of person Mookie Betts is and the type of person that this Reds fan. And now I think a lot of people in the crowd, there's a really good article on The Athletic about this, what happened. There were people like, I am a Mookie Betts fan for life. And that's what it's about. It's not about the game. It's what do you, and Mookie Betts is MVP. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But what kind of person is he? We saw it on display. And he didn't do it to get, he just
Right.
did
No,
it because he's
he
a
didn't
good
have
guy.
any expectations of what he didn't have. I mean, he just did what he did because that's who he is. So that was cool. I saw them interviewing him later. I didn't know about the bat thing, but that's cool. I saw him standing there when he got the ball too. I was watching part of that. I watched some of that game. So, all right. So if they had swept, they would have been better off. They would have kept pace. Instead, they gave up a game and then they picked it up again. So they're kind of just picking up and putting down the same game. I mean, that same one game. So if they've got to be able to win, not knowing what the Giants are going to do, they've got to be able to win everything until they lock down the division, which could be the 3rd of October, I think is the last game.
Yep. It could be.
And in that case, they're going to be playing a team that's already locked in to their division as a division winner in Milwaukee is who they end up with. Now, the Giants play nothing but National League West teams here on out, including the Padres twice. So
the Dodgers have Colorado and Arizona this week. And so
they got that. They're at both of those locations. Yeah. And then they're still playing. Most of the next 2 weeks are all National League West for them as well, with the exception of Milwaukee to finish out the season at home. All right. So, like I said, pretty decent week. Who's your MVP?
So I almost went with Mookie Betts because he's just MVP human. But I looked at the stats again, and it's Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux was 7 for 18, 388 batting average, 7 RBIs, had a triple, had a home run. Gavin Lux.
Well, I almost went with Gavin Lux, but not because of the stats, more because he basically got Cody out of the lineup.
Maybe that was supposed to happen. Like they're like, hey,
do this. Yeah. That's like sending the hockey player in specifically to hit somebody, knowing they're going to get tossed or in the box. We don't want you out there for what you do. We need your enforcer. But for the reason we just talked about, the most valuable human person, Mookie Betts, because that's a cool movie. He didn't do it for his own player. He did it for the opposing team's player. It's sportsmanship.
It is. And TJ Friedel came back when they told him he didn't know how they got the ball back. And they told him, you can thank Mookie for this. I think it was the first base coach, Delano DeShields, that said that. And he was like, what are you talking about? So he's like, I hope to meet him. I want to go shake his hand. And even, David Bell was like, that's just classy. That's just, we lost the game, but we don't care because this happened.
Well, and they're still leading in the, they're still behind the Cardinals, but that's the thing. In the wild card race, it hurt them. But from that standpoint, just to take all of that away from it for that moment.
Right.
It's one game and you have to look at it realistically. It was going to happen. You're not going to win out probably, but you got to try. On the other side of it, though, Mookie did hit 294 on the week with 3 doubles and scored 3 runs.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say that when things aren't going great for somebody, you tend to grab hold of any little victory. Well, I didn't trip over my feet today. It was a great day. And I think that the Angels are in that spot with their season. Well, at least I didn't spike myself. Ohtani's been in a slump somewhat, although he did come back and pitch pretty well. We'll talk about that coming up. They went to Chicago, played the White Sox, and then they headed home to take on Oakland, who's having their own issues in the big picture of things. So the Angels, once again, being the guardian angels, there to help out. Maybe, potentially. So that's what we have to do with every little thing the Angels do, is find the good things. Now, I almost said it again. This morning I woke up in my head, I kept saying Brandon Walsh, which I believe was Brandon Marsh, Jared Walsh, Brandon Walsh. And then I began to think, wait a minute. Wasn't Brandon Walsh like Jason Priestley? Wasn't that his name on 90210?
I think so.
And I thought, I wasn't thinking about Jason Priestley. Not that I know of. I had to be thinking baseball because I was seeing Brandon Marsh. I saw his Captain Caveman look. And he hit a fastball that was like 101 mile an hour fastball this week for a home run. I think they said that since they've been charting that particular stat, that's the fastest pitch any Angels ever hit for a home run. So that's a little thing, something you grab hold of, right? So another little thing that you got to take into account is that the White Sox are going to win the AL Central. There's no doubt about it that I can see. They should be clinching soon. The Angels go up there and they take 2 of 3. They drop the first one 9-3, but the silver lining in that one, Jared Walsh continues his hitting streak, which I think right now is the longest, or as of that time was the longest in the league at 12 games. So he's continuing to show that he was a good investment. But Jared Walsh is really proving to be the first baseman of the future. The other day I saw somebody say that they thought Freddie Freeman might sign with the Angels. And I thought, why would you do that? There's no DH for Freddie Freeman. There's no first base hole. The only thing that you could do is move Walsh out to the outfield, but you're hoping Marsh, Adele, and Trout will be out there next season. Although Walsh has shown he can play the outfield as well. Why would you go get Freddie Freeman instead of pitching? And then I realized Freddie Freeman's going to be an Angel next year, because why would we spend money on pitching? Let's spend it on another first baseman.
That makes total sense to me.
In Angel speak, that like, wow, okay, let's do it. As much as like Freddie Freeman, there's not a spot for him here. It makes no sense. So anyway, they went on, like I said, in the game, the next Angels game that they won 3-2 over the Sox. That's where Brandon Marsh hit that home run. And then Alex Cobb came back, and in the final game, they thumped the White Sox 9-3. But Alex Cobb actually came back and he did something he had never done before. He beat the White Sox. He was 0-3 against the White Sox. He now is 1-3. So he picked that up, and he didn't look too bad. You know, he'll be able to come in and kind of finish off the season. He's one of those guys, though, that should have had more starts. So you could look at him as a full body of work compared to what Ohtani's done, because he doesn't pitch as often. And I guess to support Harold Reynolds and other people's theories on this, if you'd rather make have Ohtani ready to hit versus putting him on the mound more often in a regular rotation sense, what does that say? I don't know. Maybe next year they will put him in so he's at a regular every 5th or 6th day, as opposed to. I get it though. You got to watch it because he's got extra workload.
So during the White Sox game, or series, I should say, there were 3 White Sox hitters that were hit by Angels pitches in the second game of the series. Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, and Jan Moncada were all hit. And when you look at it and you look at the pictures, like they weren't trying to hit those guys. They just hit them. And we talked about this with the San Diego Padres pitcher, Austin Adams, who I think has broken all records for hitting
Yeah, I
hitting
think he
batters.
hit his 24th or 25th to break the record this last weekend or something.
Yeah. So they know he's not intentionally throwing at them, but the pitch that he does throw that hits the most batters, probably he needs to retire that or work really hard on getting control.
Just throw
of
it
that.
versus lefties.
Yeah, right. That's true, because that is true. So in this game, you have, in this series, you have the three White Sox hitters that were hit by pitches on Tuesday. So then, you start looking like, what is going on? Well, the Angels are not. What's the end game for them to hit these guys intentionally? The next day, White Sox pitcher Mike Wright throws at Shohei Ohtani and misses him, throws kind of like towards his lower half, his legs, twice. And then I think he hits him in the elbow. And a lot of people are like, oh, he didn't intentionally hit him. But when you throw the same pitch consecutively
In the same spot.
in the same spot, it looks like you're aiming. So Ohtani takes his base, chatting it up with the first baseman. Not a big deal to him. It's just his personality. But the umpires were like, we don't like this, especially the home plate umpire. They eject Mike Wright and Tony La Russa. And Tony La Russa, who is, a Hall of Fame manager, he acts like this season, despite where the White Sox are, he acts like he has no clue how things work in baseball. He did come back and say that it wasn't intentional, but a lot of people thought that maybe Wright had been in the bullpen. They were like, you need to get somebody. And if you're going to get somebody, make it Ohtani. And maybe Tony La Russa was upset because he didn't make the call. It wasn't him.
That's probably the bigger part of it with him. If you're going to be doing stuff like that, upholding unwritten rules, I need to be the one calling that shot.
Right. Exactly.
So I can deny it later.
Yeah. Tony La Russa was suspended for one game. He has already served that suspension. But Mike Wright has been issued a 3-game suspension. He is appealing that suspension. And Shohei Ohtani, he's okay. He's good.
He probably didn't give it a second thought until somebody told him about it.
Yep. Exactly.
I wonder if anybody told him that Jack Morris had been reinstated. Did he care?
Yeah. That's nice.
Is Jack Morris more sensitive now after what his run-in with?
Well, I'm sure somebody out there will be monitoring him specifically for that.
Yes. So that way they can say he's a repeat offender.
Yeah.
Off to Oakland. Well, off to going home to take on Oakland. Yeah, they were feeling bad for the A's because the A's had been having problems winning. They were losing ground in the wild card race. So the Angels said, look, don't sweat it.
We got you.
We got you. They're like Rashida Jones in those commercials, the Travelocity or whatever her, or Expedia or whatever her commercials are.
Yeah.
I got you.
That's right.
That's what it was. And there were some, but once again, let's find the silver linings of the games. Jonathan Diaz, left-hander, makes his debut and becomes the 63rd player used by the Angels this season. It's a record for them. Before, It was only 60 players. That was in 2018. All right, the next two silver linings in being swept by the A's belong to potential MVP, definitely an MVP candidate, Shohei Ohtani. In the 3-1 loss to the A's, he went 2 for 4 with 2 singles against the A's. That gave him his 36th multi-hit game of the year. And he hasn't really been doing that lately. He's been mired in this slump. He's been passed in the home run race. He was like way out there. And now he's just third.
Yeah, just third.
Now you got to give it that. I think we expected Vladdy to hold on to that lead. We didn't think Ohtani would pass him. What I did want to see was maybe Ohtani get to 50. But I think once we started talking about that, it's like, when they start putting the graphic up that it's a perfect game, you jinx it.
Yeah, every time.
To go Planet Head, it's all part of the conspiracy theory. I think it's in the script. I'm sure Planet Head would say the same thing.
Yes, he would totally agree, 100%.
So he's been having a hard time. So that was nice to see him get on track. And then he's had a couple of bad pitching outings. So even though they lost, but they did it in innings, because me, normally I don't care how you lost, just that you lost. I don't care that you scored 15 runs but lost 19-15 because you still lost. But in this case, they did it in innings. They came back to score 2 runs. Shohei went 8 innings in that game and did something. Now, this is the part that's kind of crummy, but it's not Shohei's fault. He had never in his 33 starts career-wise issued an intentional base on balls. But he did so twice in this game to Matt Olson, I think was one of them. He may have been both of them, as I recall, because Matt Olson hit a home run in the game. Oh, yeah, he did. It was the 3rd and the 8th innings when they walked Matt Olson, who himself could be an MVP candidate, should have been at least, in the past. He's definitely one of the reasons why he is the more prominent of the Matts on the corners there. You got Matt Olson. So the Matts on either side are not welcome Matts at 1st and 3rd in Oakland.
No, not Chapman and Olson.
They want to take you down. So anyway, Yan Gomes and Matt Chapman both hit home runs. Yan Gomes had a lot of good things to say about Ohtani as well. So that was it. They really didn't. They had their standard week. It wasn't anything to hop up and down about.
Or write home about.
No, not even that. To
text about.
Text. Facebook post, TikTok. I don't know what you do on TikTok.
I don't either.
Oh, come on. You've got a secret TikTok account somewhere where you're
I do all of the challenges.
Dances
and I try all of the challenges.
And you and one of the satellites of the Planet Head are dancing.
Oh,
I know you are. All right, so the Angels, they're pretty much getting set to do what a lot of teams are doing and finish off within their own division. They've got a couple of more sets with Houston, which starts off this week, and then they've got Seattle. They'll finish up the season in Seattle, and in between they're going to play Houston and Texas. The Rangers will sit in there as well. Actually, it's Houston, Seattle, Rangers, Seattle, and then it's all over with. So, silver lining, do you have a player of the week?
I do. I went with Alex Cobb. Alex Cobb has been on the IL for a while. He had an issue with his wrist. We weren't sure if he was even going to be back this season, and he did get back. He had his first game, and did pitch 5 innings. Probably wasn't going to pitch any more than that. They usually try to limit that, especially as they come off the IL. Gave up 2 hits, but no runs, 5 strikeouts. And as you mentioned, had his first win against the White Sox. So I just went with Alex Cobb. I thought he was probably the safe bet. I don't know, but it was hard because when you're looking at the box scores, there are some guys, that have been consistent, but not really. I mean, yes and no. Like they hit in 2 games, but the next 2 games they go 0 for 4. So
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So,
the names that seem to pop up: Jared Walsh,
mm-hmm.
Bill Gosselin, Jack Mayfield, and David Fletcher. Ohtani obviously always shows up in there, but sometimes he doesn't do anything compared to what the others are doing. Joe Adell is out because he jumped up and banged into the wall in Houston and has been out ever since. Not sure what it is he hit, but you can never tell. It doesn't look like it should be that bad, but you hit the wrong way. It's like reaching down to pick up a piece of paper, but you just twist the wrong way and all of a sudden you're out.
Yeah, it says he has abdomen. Not sure. It's not specific on the IL. It just says abdomen. It's Justin Upton is out for the season. Joe Adell's out for the season. Dylan Bundy's out for the season. And of course, we know Mike Trout is out for the season. So the Angels are just playing out the rest of the season, hopefully getting some wins. Hopefully Shohei can put some more home runs on the board.
Make it a much bigger, happier time that they had a 50 home run.
To look for those little things, those little happy moments.
Well, I want him to get past Salvador Perez at least.
Yeah. So do you have a player of the week?
I too was looking at the stats. All right, I'm going to lie. I was going to lie right there, but you know what? For this week, the Angels don't get one from me. I would probably go with like you. Alex Cobb was who I was thinking about. So how about this? I'll give it to Alex Cobb. And then I have another more general player of the week that we'll do at the end of Around the League.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm not sure what's going on with the wild card stuff, but we'll dive into it a little bit just because not a lot changed other than a little flip-flop in the American League wild card. I think that we're starting to see a pretty solid foundation for the NL wild card, much to Jace Tingler and the rest of the Padres' chagrin. But as always, who were the MLB MVPs for the AL and the NL?
So the MLB's player of the week for the National League is Tyler O'Neill of the St. Louis Cardinals. He is their left fielder. He hit safely in all 6 games. He drove in at least 1 run in 5 of them. He hit 3 home runs, 2 of which came in the 8th inning to put the Cardinals in the lead. He finished the week with .391 average, 10 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and a 1.308 OPS to win Player of the Week honors for the first time.
I am not surprised to see his name because I don't know how many times I've looked at the Cardinals highlights and his name or he comes up, and he had a pretty decent series versus the Dodgers as well. His name was shooting, was in there with some big numbers every game.
And then for the AL Player of the Week, it is Jose Ramirez. He went 10 for 20 with 2 homers, 2 doubles, 7 RBIs, 10 runs scored, and a 1.460 OPS over 6 games for the Indians. The third baseman reached base in 8 of his 10 plate appearances, hitting 2 homers and scoring 7 runs as Cleveland outscored New York 22-4 on Saturday and Sunday at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride for them. Of course, pitching staff's been down. No Shane Bieber. Zach Plesac I think he's been the starter in some bad outings, not just for him, but for the team as well. So J-Ram stepping up. If they could get everything back together, if they could have kept it together, they very well could have been having a battle with the White Sox.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I could
know.
see that. We'll see. Next year, they will be the Guardians.
Right. So we'll see how the Guardians do versus the White Sox, and all the teams with the same names. We'll play a team with a new name. Let's see how can they handle that.
And if you're an announcer, will you be insensitive if you refer to them by their old name?
Oh, right. That's going to happen. People are going to forget. Sportscasters, announcers, they're probably their own team announcers will probably have things posted up that says Guardians,
That's right.
flashing at them all the time. They're going to go into some kind of immersive, they tell you to do that to learn a new language. They're going to go into that to learn the Guardian language is not the Indians.
Yes.
Guardians. So this is a week where we saw some strange things. And one of them was the grounds crew being ejected from a game.
Yeah.
That was Baltimore?
It was in Baltimore. The entire Baltimore Orioles grounds crew, they were behind the tarp and they were getting ready to get the tarp on the field because there was a storm coming in and they were, Johnny on the spot, we're getting the tarp out on the field. And
they're expecting that the game's probably going to be delayed or because it was about the ninth inning, I think, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that's what the grounds crew do. I mean, they've got their eye, got the Weather Channel on, looking at the radar, what's going on to spring into action. But the crew chief, Tim Timmons,
who was at third base that day, I think.
Yeah, but he
could see right across the field to where they were all set up at, and it was bugging him.
It was bugging him. He didn't like it, and he threw him out. Now, they're out of here. So you see 20 guys walking down to the outfield, to go out to get out off the field. Now, they thought, were they making noise? Were they chirping? What were they doing? Timmons said he didn't eject the grounds crew. That's not what he did. He just wanted them to be safe.
Okay.
Do you believe that?
No, I think that from what I read, when I saw it too, was that they were almost done with the game. And he didn't want them there so that it would be that this game's not going to finish. This game will finish. That's what was in his head.
Yes.
And as the crew chief, he has the ability to call the game or to not. It could be coming down in buckets. The ocean could be falling on. They could have a tsunami. He could say, keep playing.
That's right. Well, yeah, he said because they were the infield and he was concerned for their safety and they were behind the tarp. So if anything came towards them, they could hide. But you saw them walking off the field, all dejected.
I would take that as like an honor. I got thrown out of a ball game.
Yes. How many grounds crew can even say that? I don't think that's ever happened.
Ever.
I mean, it was funny because I think there was the joke that Baltimore, the Orioles made it through the game, even though the grounds crew got ejected, but the organ player and the mascot were on their best behavior after that.
Right. Everybody calm down. Oh, hey, he's taking no prisoners today. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So now only 3 teams have punched their postseason tickets. We know that the Giants and the Dodgers are locked in to go to the playoffs. The Brewers are already locked in to go to the playoffs. in from the Central. And I think a lot of that is that there's just no way anybody's going to catch up with to them. St. Louis is the closest behind them, but there's 10.5 games back. I would have thought Tampa Bay might have already clinched, but Boston's only 7 games back. So they're still within, striking distance, even though Tampa Bay is not really losing that much. As we mentioned, there's a little flip-flopping going on in the wild card. Last week, Toronto was the number 1 wild card. They are now number 2 and a game and a half back Boston, because Boston beat them. So head-to-head, that happened. The Yankees kind of fell on some tough times, as you were talking about, with the Indians, and they're on the outside looking in at just a half game back. So between the 3 of them, a lot can happen, because the East, they're all in the East there, and they're all going to be battling either one another or somebody right in the, or somebody's going to get Baltimore and maybe go on a run. Oakland is now within 2 thanks to their guardian angels. Seattle, who will match up with the Angels twice before the season's out, are only 3 back. So they very well could find themselves up there as well. I think they're definitely a team that we didn't expect to be in this mix at this point. Cleveland and Detroit are the next 2 teams, but we know they're out of it at 10.5 and 11.5 games out of the wild card, not just of their own division. And then, as we said, it looks like the National League wild card is getting to a point where it's set pretty much. The ground is getting firmer for number 2. Number 1 was set in stone.
Yeah, it has been for a while.
Yeah, for quite a while, because they're at 15.5 games up. The Dodgers have that spot, and they're only a game back from the Giants. So depending on what happens there, that could flip-flop. We're hoping, obviously, it does. But if it doesn't, Dodgers still in the playoffs as the number 1 wild card. Here's what's happening, though. I'm going to act like I didn't say anything about this earlier, about drinking the Arenado punch, but he's been playing more solid. You don't hear about him, but he's just playing ball because Tyler O'Neill is obviously become the big stick, but Goldschmidt's doing his thing, getting the home run calls, the EOR home run calls, not the home run calls. There's Goldschmidt with another one. Oh, knock that guy out. He's going to the ER. Another ER home run for Paul Goldschmidt. He's racking them up. Anyway, the Cardinals, they just waited. Like we talked about, they drafted off another car, and now, boom, like in America's Cup with the sailboats, because I used race cars last time. Sailboats, you kind of draft in behind somebody.
Yeah, you do.
And you take up the wind, and then you blast past them.
You harness the wind. That's what the Cardinals have done. Yes, they
see that's So I rarely ride like the wind, because I'm more like I'm sailing. And there's your double Christopher Cross for the day. Anyway, it looks like the Cardinals, Cincinnati, only 3 games back, and I haven't looked at the schedules, right now, but I'm sure as the season's ending, since they're both Central Division teams, that
the Pirates are playing the Reds.
Oh, that's right, and yeah,
and then the Cardinals and the Brewers. Really good.
Now, it's a good matchup.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, though, how, what will the Brewers do? The Brewers aren't playing for a playoff spot anymore.
No.
Doesn't mean you don't want to win, but, will that come into play? Cincinnati looks like they're going to finish up with the Nats, the White Sox, and finally Pittsburgh one more time to close out their season. So with the exception of the White Sox, they have a kind of easy closing schedule. So if they can put it together, they could probably maybe overtake the Cardinals, depending on how the Cardinals finish up when they've got Milwaukee, the Cubs, who's not necessarily a pushover. They've been playing well at times. This post Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, and whoever else they got rid of. Everybody. They've got Milwaukee again, and then they finish up with the Cubs. So be interesting. Now the Padres, who have to play the Giants twice more, and we're hoping they'll actually play well against the Giants. They're fading out of everything, and they've got some issues going on that are making people question not only Jace Tingler and his management style and that, but also AJ Preller, who has been elevated into the upper echelon. He's not as high up as, say, Friedman.
Andrew, yeah.
Or Zaidi, because obviously he's up there towards the top with what he's done with San Francisco. It almost makes me wonder if that was their plan together. Friedman and Zaidi, we're going to come to the West and make West Coast baseball the envy of Major League Baseball and really reignite this rivalry. And is it in the script? That's a conspiracy theory right there that They came here just to do that, because it's all about making that a better rivalry, which is good for the sport. It's it's like when the Red Sox and the Yankees are on it, people love it. People who don't even care about baseball will watch Yankees Red Sox because they know about it.
That's
Dodgers
right.
Giants is another one that goes back to when they were in the New York area.
Yep.
So
yeah,
even Vince Scully grew up a Giants fan.
he did.
All right, so that's how we're looking with the playoff situation. For the most part, everybody that's going to win a division is probably going to, even if they haven't fully clinched. But the Padres are having bigger issues. A blow up in the dugout between Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. So it started with Bobby Dickerson, who's the bench coach, was the first person to say something to Tatis. But I guess I need to go back and set up what happened. So Tatis is at the plate, right?
Yep, he is at the plate. He is not happy with the umpire and his he struck out and he gets upset. He's going to argue the balls and strikes, which you don't do. It's
and not just the regular mumbling or
No.
Where was that? There's no way that was a strike. People say that, and a lot of the umps let it go.
Right.
But you're not supposed to argue.
I like, so one guy I think that is very, I don't say professional. Now he has, at times said, that wasn't right. Corey Seager, ball comes in, he'll ask them, hey, okay, where was that? Was that high? Was low? Okay. And then he just goes about, and then if he strikes out, then he just goes on. It's not that big deal. Fernando Tatis Jr., no way. And he was in danger of getting ejected. Jace Tingler comes out, argues for his, kind of sacrifices himself for Tatis because he doesn't want him to get ejected. So he gets ejected in place of Tatis.
He was the DE, the designated ejectee.
Exactly. Yes.
So he was a pinch ejectee because he came in last minute.
That's right. So he was upset. He comes in Tatis is upset. He comes in the dugout. He slams his helmet in the dugout, and there's a confrontation between Tatis and Dickerson, and then Manny Machado and Tatis get into it.
So the deal is that Dickerson is a little more of a hard ass compared to Tingler. Tingler's just, hey, whatever, come on. He's kind of got he's got a Joe Madden feel without the piece to it. He's got he's just, you would say he's a player's manager, but he's too far one side or the other, so they lose it. I think even Tommy Pham, who had an issue where he ended up getting like stitches under his chin because of a play where the other player, I don't remember who it was, ran into him. And Tommy Pham was yelling at Dickerson because he knew that Dickerson's the guy who should be. I think Dickerson worked under like Buck Showalter and guys like that, who are even keeled for the most part, but they're cut and dry with stuff. They're like, boom, this is it. They're authoritarian without being hard.
Yeah, and Manny Machado knows that he was with Dickerson in Baltimore. So
Right.
he already understands that. The rest of the guys, not so much.
Well, and you got to look at the age differences too. But Manny Machado straight out told Tatis, and we didn't get all of it, but it's like, it's not about you. And I think that Tatis is young. He's been given we talked about this recently about being given too much all at once so that you think that you are on a higher status than the rest of your team or the rest of the league or the rest of humanity, whatever it is. He's put himself up there. So when you call him out on something, he's like, man, and even with Tatis, dude, I make more money than you do. Well, that's not an indicator that you're a better ball player or that you've got any class. I believe I've heard somebody say one time, money doesn't buy class.
Yeah, that is true. I would agree with that. Yeah, there's a struggle in the Padres, not obviously in the dugout, not something that they wanted to be broadcast everywhere because it's everywhere now. And it really shows the implosion of their season because they were going to be in the postseason. I mean, I think everyone
were supposed to topple the Dodgers,
right?
Not the Giants. The Padres were the team. And then you and I too, were like, man, they got Blake Snell. I mean, I wanted Blake Snell to go to the Angels. But when they got him there, and then you figure they've got Mike Clevenger, who's out, that they picked up there. Who knows what this is a team that's building to be a dynasty. The only dynasty that they're mirroring right now is the TV show. And you've got drama between Joan Collins and Linda Evans. And I don't remember their character names.
I only can remember Crystal. Yeah, and Crystal Carrington. I remember that, but yeah.
Carringtons, yes. It was the Carringtons but it's that drama. It's soap opera drama. It's not a good look for any team.
Yeah.
But doesn't it kind of make you kind of like kind of laugh and giggle a little bit and delight?
Yeah, it really does. One of the things with Machado, I think he's trying to be a leader in the clubhouse. He's not my favorite. He is a good third baseman. He has moments where he makes plays that are like, wow, I can't believe he just did that. And I think I don't know that he sees himself in Fernando Tatis Jr., but he was that age once, and he's cocky, and maybe he's maturing, and he sees Fernando Tatis Jr. in that role. But there are some other things besides just Machado and Tatis Jr. Eric Hosmer apparently was being kind of shopped around, and that didn't set well with the players in the clubhouse. There's just been some other, and then also Jace Tingler, as you mentioned, this is a guy who never managed before and didn't play in the major leagues. So really no managing experience and no playing experience, but he's friends with Preller. And he was like player development, but he brings him over and he becomes the manager. And, he's always like, well, I point the finger at me. So by pointing the finger at himself, he fires Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, which did absolutely nothing for the team. And So there's a lot going on in that clubhouse. And then you have Manny Machado, who has a contract, that big contract, and Tatis, of course, that has the big contract. So they're going to be together for a while.
$640 million just between the two of them.
Yeah. So you wonder, that somebody had put up a side-by-side of the Padres dugout with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis yelling at one another. And then the other side was the Dodger dugout, Albert Pujols hugging everyone for the home runs.
Harmony,
and
discord.
Yeah, the hugging, and there was a clip of Chris Taylor and Mookie Betts sitting on the bench, and whatever story or whatever Chris Taylor's telling him, Mookie Betts is cracking up. So just a totally different vibe. But there's a lot of issues in the Padres because they really, they've imploded. But we got to be Padres fans for
at least two series worth.
At least 2 series, right? Not for the rest of the season, because that would not be good.
Just another 6 games.
Yeah, and so they need to get their act together.
We don't have to even be actively.
No,
we just have to look at the score and go Padres.
That's it. That's all you got to do.
And say Padres, not Dregs.
Right. And be more
so they think that we're
hospitable sincere. That we are, because we really are.
They also have a couple of problems with their starting pitching, which maybe you can address on the Wheel of IL.
On the Wheel of IL, we'll start with the Padres. Blake Snell, we mentioned him in the game against the Dodgers. They were thinking he was going to be day-to-day, but he is officially on the IL, along with Chris Paddock. They're still on the IL. So I think they were hoping that it would be something maybe short-term, something quick they could get over, but they're still there. Now, they did get Jake Arrieta, but now he is on the IL with a right adductor strain. There's that word again, adductor. And so he was, and that was another thing about the Padres.
And that's a groin type injury, not so much the thigh, but adductor is a groin connected injury.
Right. So he's got that. Blake Snell has that. And Chris Paddock, I think, is its arm.
See, I always wonder when everybody starts coming up with the same type injuries on the same team.
Yeah.
It's like when a whole group comes down with a certain, everybody got sick. They all got mono.
Yeah.
And they're all in the same group. What you all been doing? And in this case, it may not be as nefarious, but it could just be they're stretching the same way or not stretching the same way, and that could go back to the training staff or something. The new pitching coach has them moving in a different direction with their windup, and
their adductors are not happy.
Their adductors are hollering.
Yeah, and so that was another issue that was also brought up. Is at the trade deadline, they got Adam Frazier. And Adam Frazier's a great ball player.
That they desperately didn't need.
Right. And they really needed pitching. And so what did we hear? Max Scherzer is going to the Padres. I'm sure they got really excited. I am so glad Max Scherzer is in Dodger blue. He looks awesome in Dodger blue.
Absolutely.
But so that was another issue. So you've got, the players not happy with the front office. And now you have 3 pitchers on the IL. Going to Cincinnati, since the Dodgers were just there, Jesse Winker came off the IL to play against the Dodgers. And he went back on the IL the next day because of an intercostal strain. that he had before. So he was up to bat, and when he made the swing, you could see him wince. He just,
Came
it
back
was
a little
not
too early.
exactly. So he's back on the IL, and Tyler Knockan, who had been putting up some good numbers for the Reds, he probably is going to be out for the rest of the season with a rib injury. So that's the Reds.
I always
Joe,
want to say he's got a McRib injury. I don't know why. I don't. I mean, it's not like there's something like I think of him and McDonald's. I just think when I hear rib injury, it just always sounds funnier to me. Oh, he has a McRib injury. He was eating too many.
He could be. I remember when the McRib, I don't know exactly when it came out, but I remember going to McDonald's with Grandma, and she said, "I'd like to order 2 Mr. McRibs."
Mr. McRibs. Awesome.
And the guy looked at her like, okay. And I was cracking up. Like, classic Grandma.
Yep.
Mr. McRib. Anyway, Connor Joe from Colorado was playing really well, getting those hits, hamstring injury. Black thinks he probably will not be back for the season. So he had been a Dodger, but now he's a Rocky. Michael Brantley out with the knee injury. I think he's had this knee. I think it might be kind of a lingering thing because he's been on the IL before, and then he goes back on the IL, and it's usually always a knee. I'm not sure if it's the same knee. Doesn't tell me that. But Brett Anderson of Milwaukee Brewers, he is currently on the IL with a shoulder injury, but they are hoping that he will be pitching this week against the Cardinals. And Wander Franco of Tampa Bay, hamstring injury. So Kevin Cash isn't sure, hopes he's going to be back, but we'll see.
I would think with Tampa Bay, that's a different situation than like when we talk about should Mike Trout come back if he could.
Yeah. There's
nothing to play for, and you're only going to be coming back to play for yourself. Yeah, yes, I can do it. I came back. I'm good. But with Wander Franco, he's had enough of an impact on the team. You want to do what you can to get him healthy and hopefully back for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that is what they are focusing on. And then last is San Francisco. Jake McGee has an oblique injury.
Oblique. And I'm happy that he's out because that might mean they might drop some because he's been pretty much unstoppable.
And then another pitcher, Tyler Chatwood, is also on the IL, but that is undisclosed, so we can throw things out there. Could be. And that is the will of IL.
Right now, I do want to throw a big MVP shout out to the most valuable podcaster this week, to Jana, because I came into today's show with empty pages. Normally, I have full pages of information, and if she doesn't bring it up or doesn't catch that, I do it, and vice versa. We do our own research. But today, most of everything I said was off the top of my head, unless I had something that I'd written down on my phone or a note somewhere, or she had told me before we started this segment. So you are this week's most valuable podcaster. Hooray!
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Academy, my family. Yes.
Yeah, you got it. You better thank your family. They're the one that one of your family just gave it to you.
That's exactly right. I especially want to thank my brother Jeff for this honor.
Right, because sorry, there's no award for it. I'm not going to give you. If you know what, make out a certificate to yourself.
All right.
And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
We're also on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
Next week on SRBB, we're flying by the seat of our pants as we get close to the end of the season.
The seat of my pants are completely worn out, so I'm cruising a BA across the skies of America.